Once a bustling city of over 500,000 people has now turned into a ghost town. Relentless bombardment by Russian forces has destroyed the city of Mariupol. Moscow has bombed residential areas, schools and hospitals in the port city since invasion. Ukraine claims that nearly 5,000 people have been killed in the second largest city of Ukraine. Blocked by shelling, Mariupol is also running out of water and food supplies. Humanitarian aid is finding it difficult to get in and out of the city. Many roads are now inaccessible due to a combination of mines and burnt-out military equipment. According to the Mariupol mayor, about 90% of the buildings in the city have been damaged and 40% completely destroyed. While 140,000 civilians have managed to escape from the besieged Mariupol, another 170,000 are still trapped.
Маріуполь так і залишається заблокованим. Російські війська не дали організувати сьогодні жодного гуманітарного коридору, не дали тишу.
Over 3,000 killed. Thousands forcibly taken to Russia as prisoners. Many more injured. No building standing without damage. This is the horrifying story of Mariupol. The Ukrainian city of 5.5 lakh, now in absolute ruins. The destruction is near total. Bombarded, hit with missiles, struck with massive airstrikes relentlessly. The sprawling port city of Mariupol has been wasted by Russian heavy artillery fire. Its once plush and picturesque neighborhoods now unrecognizable and reduced to ghost towns. Many streets are seen littered with unclaimed corpses and civilians killed in airstrikes. Ukraine has also accused Moscow of forcibly moving out over 40,000 citizens from Mariupol to Russia without consent from Ukrainian government. The port city, lying in direct line of Russian fire and invasion, has seen toddlers and newborns dying in Russian attacks. Hundreds had perished earlier when Russia bombed a theatre where civilians had taken shelter. Russia has been accused of using super powerful bombs after trapping nearly 2 lakh people and denying them safe passage. France has also raised concerns over the humanitarian catastrophe in Mariupol and called for urgent international intervention. French Foreign Minister called Mariupol the new Aleppo, drawing parallels with the total destruction of the Syrian city.
Mariupol, c'est la guerre des sièges, dans laquelle
Mariupol is a siege war that Russia has been entering for a month now. And siege warfare is horrible warfare since civilian populations are being massacred and annihilated.
Ukrainian President Zelensky slammed Russian forces for targeting civilians, including bombing a school sheltering women and children.
Destroyed schools, churches, houses. All the people are killed, and all the children are killed. The air bomb on the maternity hospital is the final proof that the genocide of the Ukrainians is taking place.
Half of Mariupol's population is still trapped, becoming victims of President Putin's war game. And time is running out for Mariupol real fast. Bureau Report, India Today.
So if you're wondering why is Putin so obsessed with Mariupol, we're here to break this down for you. Mariupol is the gateway to the Sea of Azov, controlling Mariupol. That is the domination over Sea of the Azov, as you can see on your screens right there. It's just 50 kilometers from the Russian border also, and only 85 kilometers from Russian-held Donetsk, Luhansk. Putin wants Ukraine to surrender Mariupol to help Putin extend a dominance from Crimea port city. Port city has seen brutal assault, it's seen war crimes as well, and these are the top reasons why he's really obsessed with Mariupol. The battle for port city of Mariupol has intensified. According to reports, the Azov Battalion, infamous for war crimes, is defending Ukraine's second largest city from Russian forces. Neo-Nazis defending the city of Mariupol has raised questions on Ukraine's spirited defense. Here's a report.
Battered, bruised, besieged. After relentless Russian bombardment and civilian deaths, Ukraine's second largest city of Mariupol is on the edge, but still holding fort. Moscow has launched an all-out war to capture the city, which can act as the bridge between Donbass and Crimea, two regions that are already under Russian control. According to reports from the ground, Mariupol is mainly being defended by Ukraine's Azov Battalion, a unit infamous for war crimes and torture tactics. This video was released by the Azov Battalion last week. The footage appears to show tanks firing down a street in Mariupol. The Azov claims to have destroyed 3 Russian armored vehicles and 4 infantry fighting vehicles. Mariupol is also where the battalion has set up its headquarters. The Azov Special Operations Detachment is a right-wing neo-Nazi band of soldiers. A volunteer militia, the Azov was incorporated into the National Guard of Ukraine in November 2014 after recapturing Mariupol from pro-Russian separatists. Russian President Vladimir Putin has spoken of the presence of such units within the Ukrainian military to justify his war.
We simply don't have any other choice to protect our people, and we'll have to use the only available choice that we will use today. The circumstances require immediate, resolute action. The People's Republics of the Donbass have requested assistance from Russia. In this regard, in line with Article 51.7 of the UN Charter, with the authorization of the Parliament of Russia, and in exercising the Treaty on Friendship and Mutual Assistance with the Donetsk People's Republics and Lugansk People's Republics, I've taken the decision to conduct a special military operation. Its purpose is to protect people who have been subject to abuse and genocide by the Kyiv regime for 8 years. And to do this, we will strive to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, and also bring to justice those who have committed numerous bloody crimes against civilians, including citizens of the Russian Federation.
Just a few days after the war started, the Ukrainian National Guard had shared a video of supposed Azov fighters allegedly dipping bullets in pig fat for use against Muslim Chechen fighters in Ukraine. The regiment brazenly flaunts the Nazi insignia, notably its Wolf's Angel logo, the original symbols used by the 2nd SS Panzer Division, Das Reich. The Azov is least concerned about being labeled neo-Nazis.
Where did they get those symbols from in the 1940s? They weren't all new. Sometimes it's easier to adopt something that already exists.
To the left-wingers and liberals in the West, just having basic conservative values is enough to be classified as a Nazi. To be honest, I don't really care what my enemies call me.
While the world rallies behind Ukraine against Russian aggression, the Azov Battalion's questionable methods have cast a shadow on the country's spirited defense. Bureau Report, India Today.
Russian President Vladimir Putin's ally and Chechen President warlord Ramzan Kadyrov has arrived in Mariupol, where Chechen fighters have been fighting for the Russians. Kadyrov, who is known to be a brutal tyrant, has been accused of several human rights violations. Who is the dreaded Chechnya leader? Here's a look at the report.
Вот так говорит наш командующий, самый лучший командующий.
Ramzan Kadyrov, the man who rules Chechnya with an iron fist, handpicked by Vladimir Putin for the top job. Someone who wrestles crocodiles with bare hands. Known as Putin's attack dog, Kadyrov has landed in the near-fallen city of Mariupol, where the dreaded Chechen fighters continue their deadly assault. The Chechen warlord is likely to finalize the strategy for his fighters in Mariupol. Kadyrov portrays a macho image of himself, frequently posing with guns and military garb. He has never shied away from flaunting his opulent wealth. A known tyrant who stops at nothing. The Chechen president has been accused of a wide array of human rights violation under his rule. Kadyrov has been accused of ordering torture and extrajudicial killings, along with a string of assassinations of Russian journalists and human rights activists. A number of his Chechen critics who sought asylum abroad were attacked or killed even on foreign soil. Kadyrov imposes regression through violence in Chechnya, where he ordered women to be shot at with paintballs for not observing the Islamic dress code, even urging men to block their wives from using WhatsApp. The Chechen leader also backs polygamy and in the past has ordered purges against homosexuals, going on to claim there is no homosexual person in Chechnya. Ramzan Kadyrov is one of Kremlin's deadliest weapons, and Putin has now decided to unleash Kadyrov on Ukraine. Bureau Report, India Today.
So who is Ramzan Kadyrov, brutal Chechen leader, the president of the Chechen Republic? Let's also bring you how he's a close ally, remember, of Vladimir Putin, made Lieutenant General of Internal Troops by Putin. He fought in Chechen War before switching sides. He rules Chechnya with heavy-handed repression. He has also been criticized for unleashing crimes on humanity, accused of torture, extrajudicial killings, behind the killings of Russian journalists and even activists. Will there now be a big escalation in days to come? Ukraine's armed forces say that Russian troops are attempting to advance into Kyiv from the northwest and east. Their plan is to capture nearby roads and villages. What will happen next? Take a look at this report.
Уже штук 20 пролетіло.
The raging battle for capital city Kyiv continues, and Moscow is increasing both intensity of attacks and ferocity of weaponry, aiming to make the phase 2 of the ongoing war even deadlier. Russian troops are attempting to advance on Kyiv from the northwest and the east, capturing nearby roads and villages. But Ukraine is not backing down. Russian forces are currently being held back by Ukrainian fightback in outskirts of Kyiv.
Early this morning, there was intense shelling reported from the north, northeast and west, 3 directions in Kyiv, and that is where the Russian forces are reportedly advancing. So initially there was a feeling that there would be a lull since negotiations are happening, but there appears to be an intensification in the operations that are being carried out by the Russians.
Villages surrounding Kyiv, including Bashiv, Stoyanka and Sitnyaki are in ruins. Their infrastructure damaged, buildings destroyed and streets deserted.
The workers are still working and they're making sure that in case of any heavy bombardment in this area in Sofia Square, this statue, which is an ancient statue, is a heritage of the city, is protected and is not damaged in any kind of air attacks from the Russian forces.
Destroyed tanks, armored vehicles dot the landscape, indicating a massive trail of destruction. India today met a group of US war veterans who have arrived in Kyiv to help Ukraine fight back.
So, Marshall, incidentally, is a combat veteran. He's had extensive tours of duty overseas with the US Armed Forces. John, you're helping as a volunteer. What do you do?
So I'm actually bringing donations from Canada. I'll be volunteering at the Mariupol border crossing, just helping refugees. I passed through there a couple days ago. They definitely need all the assistance that they can get, 100%.
Despite continued attacks from Kyiv, some residents of Kyiv who fled the capital city are slowly returning home.
Now that the two of you are back and you're on rotation, you're on R&R right now, you'll go back to the front line.
Yes, next week, approximately next week.
So the time that you're spending together, and I don't want to, be as, take away a lot of your time, but you do intend to now come together for a longer period, I believe.
Of course. Now we have time for a week and we try to work, try to drink a coffee and maybe bicycle tomorrow. Of course, I find flowers for she and try to make happy moments.
When you try to make happy moments, you're also planning to spend your life together, I believe. That was the conversation the two of you were having when we met.
Мы когда с тобой гуляем, ты планируешь, что мы и дальше будем с тобой гулять, будем дальше встречаться?
Конечно же.
Of course, we will try and we make everything what we can for this. And ты надеешься, что?
Да, я надеюсь, что мы будем вместе.
She hope we will be together.
I wish you all the best, sincerely. The two of them looked lovely together and, that's when we walked up to them and struck a conversation. Amidst all the death and destruction and gloom, there is this story of life, there is this story of happiness.
Local churches becoming rallying points for residents. With Gaurav Sawant and Rajesh Pawar in Kyiv war zone. Bureau Report, India Today.
Moscow continues its relentless attacks against Ukraine, and Ukrainian President Zelensky continues to urge for peace talks. Reports said that Russian oligarch and unofficial peacemaker Roman Abramovich presented President Vladimir Putin with a handwritten note from Zelensky. On receiving this handwritten note from Zelensky that detailed the war-hit country's peace terms, Putin reportedly said, and I quote, "Tell him I will thrash them," unquote. The handwritten note detailed Ukraine's conditions for ending the war. Earlier, sanctioned Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich had accepted Ukraine's request to help in the negotiation to bring an end to the war that began on 24th of February. Sanctioned Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich, who has been playing peacemaker between Russia and Ukraine, was poisoned, according to American newspaper The Wall Street Journal. The Chelsea owner has been dividing his time between Istanbul, Moscow and Kyiv in a bid to get sanctions leveled against him lifted. Here is more.
Roman Abramovich, the Russian oligarch who took part in peace talks in Ukraine, allegedly became target of an attack during the negotiations. The Wall Street Journal has claimed the sanctioned Russian tycoon and at least 2 Ukrainian negotiators suffered a suspected bout of poisoning. The report adds that the condition of the victims has since then improved and their lives are out of danger. According to reports in the Western media, the oligarch had flown from Turkey to Russia. but met Zelensky in Kyiv on his way. The billionaire then flew to Moscow with a handwritten note from the Ukrainian president and delivered it to Putin. The letter reportedly outlined Kyiv's conditions for the end of war, which Putin trashed. Abramovich then returned to Istanbul and informed Ukrainians of Putin's reaction. The alleged poisoning of Abramovich and other negotiators is being seen by Western news agencies like AFP as a bid to sabotage peace talks. With the two sides now negotiating directly, there are many questions related to Abramovich that remain unanswered. Has Abramovich fallen out of favor with Putin? Will the West reward Abramovich by lifting the sanctions on him? Or will Abramovich's proximity to Putin continue to impact him? The sanctions imposed by the West have already cost Abramovich quite a fortune. He has had to let go of his prized possession, Chelsea Football Club. Abramovich's attempt at peacemaking was being seen by his critics as a bid to clear sanctions slapped on him. Bureau Report, India Today.
Who is Roman Abramovich, owner of Chelsea Football Club, one of the 7 oligarchs sanctioned by the UK government? He's currently acting as the peacemaker in the Ukraine-Russia talks that are going on. He held series of meetings as a peace mediator, held frequent meetings with both Putin and Zelensky. Passed Zelensky's handwritten note to Putin as well. So that's what you need to know about Roman Abramovich. For 33 days and counting, Russia has been raining hell on Ukraine, and Zelensky has been asking for just one thing from the West. Just one thing. More weapons to counter Russian assault. Now, UK will send Starstreak high-velocity anti-air missiles to Ukraine, the shoulder-mounted missile that travels at more than 3 times the speed of sound to take down low-flying enemy jets. Will this mark a new turn in Russia-Ukraine war?
Over 33 days, Russian aircraft have been raining hell on Ukraine. But Russian aircraft have also been facing hell in the country, with large numbers of fighters and helicopters brought down by bruised but determined Ukrainian air defense units. Since the beginning of the war, Ukraine has been awash with lethal Stinger shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missiles, a weapon that has imposed a huge cost on Russia's air power superiority and will to dominate. But now, after over a month of constant bombardment, with its cities reeling from a second wave of Putin's aerial strikes, a new weapon is flowing into Ukraine. One that will give it even more teeth against Putin's air force. Days after the NATO summit in Brussels, the Boris Johnson government in the United Kingdom has decided to supply Ukraine with Starstreak, the fastest short-range air defense missile system in existence. The man-portable shoulder-fired Starstreak system fires missiles that accelerate to up to 4 times the speed of sound, blindingly zooming into their targets. The weapon then launches 3 laser beam-riding sub-munitions, increasing the likelihood of a successful hit on their target. The Starstreak has a number of advantages over the Stinger and Igla systems currently being used by Ukrainian air defense troops. Most notably, the Starstreak cannot be jammed by infrared or radar countermeasures. Britain's air defense commander has declared that Russian pilots will think twice about getting into their planes after British soldiers have trained their Ukrainian counterparts to fire Starstreak. With this latest NATO weapon entering a high-tech battlefield, will this give Putin's air power impulses reason to stay grounded? Or has Putin already war-gamed Ukraine's new defenses? Watch this space to find out what happens next. Bureau Report, India Today.
Make no mistake, viewers, the Russian war machine is showing just no signs of slowing down. In the latest, Russia launched 4-caliber cruise missiles to target areas near the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv after admitting to the use of Kinzhal hypersonic air-launched cruise missile. Here's a look at the Russian missiles raining fury on Ukraine.
A brooding night sky over the Black Sea, torn apart by 4-caliber cruise missiles launched from a Russian Navy Buyan M missile boat. Their targets, Ukrainian sites near the country's capital, Kyiv. Capable of hitting targets hundreds of kilometers away with devastating accuracy, the use of caliber cruise missiles signals a shift into the realm of advanced weaponry in the second phase of this war. The Russian Ministry of Defense has flaunted this video of the Iskander short-range ballistic missile as well, being used to target a claimed foreign mercenary unit using a Kyiv shopping mall as a reloading base for its rocket units. The third major Russian missile system being used is the Yakhont high-speed cruise missile, seen here being launched against a Ukrainian weapons depot in the western part of the country. The Yakhont is a progenitor of the Indo-Russian BrahMos missile in service with the Indian Armed Forces. And the missile that Russia has used for the first time in combat, the Kinzhal hypersonic air-launched cruise missile, seen here smashing into a Ukrainian underground weapons depot. The Kinzhal is a nuclear-capable weapon that has of course been used only with conventional warheads in Ukraine. Four advanced Russian missile systems, all four being used in anger against Ukraine. The damage they're causing, plain for their makers and the world to see. Of course, there's another Russian missile that's on operational alert amidst this Ukrainian crisis. A weapon stored away secretly inside Russia's Bore-class nuclear ballistic missile submarines. A weapon that will hopefully never be used. The Bulava, a submarine-launched intercontinental range ballistic missile. A Cold War weapon that could bring about the end of the world if ever fired in anger. A weapon whose heightened state of alert has sparked nuclear fears across the world. As Russia's war in Ukraine rumbles forward in its second month, missile power will define the onward march. Bureau Report, India Today.
The current president of the United States of America is known to shoot his mouth at times at inappropriate times and on the matter of Ukraine war and its perpetrator, Vladimir Putin. Joe Biden has been saying things that his staff is scrambling to end up doing damage control behind his back, from war criminal to regime change. Biden has said it all, apparently ad-libbed as he strayed from carefully drafted speeches. The diplomatic fallout of such comments is naturally serious because when the US president says something in a public speech, it can really be taken back.
It was Saturday in Ukraine when the bombs began falling on Lviv to the west of the country. The city had seen relative calm over the month of war, but the strikes at a fuel depot sent smoke and flames billowing into the air. At about the same time, around 400 kilometers further west, President Joe Biden of USA was meeting Ukrainian refugees at the National Stadium of Poland in Warsaw. When reporters asked him what he thought of President Putin of Russia, the US president said he's a butcher.
You see this and you're you know, you're dealing every day with Vladimir Putin. I mean, look at what he's done to these people. What does it make you think?
He's a butcher.
If Putin was sending a message to Biden by bombing Western Ukraine because the US president was in neighboring Poland, then Biden too had a message for Putin later that evening.
Over the last 30 years, the forces of autocracy.
It was a much-awaited speech from one who is called the leader of the free world. At the end of his 3-day visit to Europe, in the backdrop of the raging war to his east, President Joe Biden's words would in effect indicate the direction Western strategy would take in the days to come. For 27 minutes, the President of the United States spoke, showing full support for Ukraine and drawing out the parameters of Western response to Russian action. And then suddenly, 27 minutes later, at the very end of his speech, he dropped an ad-libbed bombshell.
Russia's choice. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principles, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power. God bless you all, and may God defend our freedom.
Those 9 ad-libbed words, for God's sake, this man cannot remain in power, set off alarm bells all over the diplomatic world. It had US officials scrambling to damage control, and Secretary of State Antony Blinken clarified that regime change in Russia was not on US agenda.
Made the point last night that quite
But this was typical Joe Biden. He had often been accused of letting his mouth run away from prudence. During his 2008 campaign for presidential nomination, Biden had described another contender as the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. That contender was Barack Obama, whose running mate he later became and stayed vice president during the Obama presidency. On Ukraine, as President of the United States, Joe Biden had been building up to getting his words get the better of US policy.
I think he is a war criminal.
In the matter of a week, Biden had not only called Putin a war criminal, he also referred to him as a murderous dictator, a pure thug who is waging an immoral war against the people of Ukraine. He said the Russian invasion of Ukraine was inhuman. Some of what Joe Biden sometimes says is considered nothing more important than a gaffe. Like when he said Iranian instead of Ukrainian during his State of the Union address on 1st of March.
Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people.
But there are times when the seasoned politician that he is, his verbal slip-ups may actually be pointing to how things really are. But then, as the President of the United States, he knows the weight his words carry. During his presidential campaign, Joe Biden often told his audience how the words of a president can matter when they can send men and women to war, and how they can also bring peace.